The Navigating Disability podcast often discusses topics including disability, injury, mental health, and mentions of sensitive issues such as trauma and suicide. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care while listening.
I learned a lot during the COVID lockdown periods because we had no access to anything then, and I simply had to figure things out. And I'm so glad that I did. I learned that I have a 100% success rate at surviving difficult days. And sometimes that's enough to get me through. It's almost an I am woman, hear me roar kind of statement for myself.
Welcome to the latest edition of Navigating Disability, the podcast where we challenge stigma, reframe perspectives, and create space for honest conversations about disability. I'm joined by my co-host, Jen Abbott. Welcome, Jen.
Hi, Kate and Laura.
We're so excited to have an incredible guest with us, Laura Lewis, a passionate advocate and trailblazer within the disability community. Laura's journey is one of resilience and empowerment. A late diagnosed autistic and ADHD individual, she's navigated the world with unique perspective, not just for herself, but also as the proud parent of an autistic young man. Laura's dedication to advocating for the neurodiverse community is inspiring, but perhaps her most rewarding achievement has been supporting her son in starting his very own successful microbusiness. Laura's philosophy, which I love, when doors close, build your own. It's a mindset that has fueled her work and personal journey. Today, she's here to share her insights on the challenges and triumphs of living with autism and ADHD, advocating for neurodiversity, and empowering her son, Clay, to take charge of his own future. So grab your favourite drink, sit back, and enjoy our conversation with the amazing Laura Lewis. Welcome, Laura.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. We've been following, each other on Facebook and so forth.
Yeah.
And I love.
Do we live close?
We live very close. We live about one suburb away.
Well, it's a shame we haven't caught up yet face to face.
Well, let's put that on our agenda.
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
You've had a very interesting journey. Can you tell me a little bit about it from growing up to where you are now? And obviously we've only got an hour. So give us the short version.
I thought I was the problem, but I also thought that everyone felt that way because, you don't know any different. So I'm not going to really focus on too much about my childhood. I mean, a lot of it was good. A lot of, my parents were great. Mostly my school experience is pretty good. I had some bullying in my workplace, but, nothing too major. My, from a personal point of view, my challenges began when I had a incredibly bad mental health crisis in 2011. And looking back now, I know it's because I was in severe burnout from a lifetime of masking. And it took about 8 years to get that diagnosis. And if you're a clinician listening, I suggest if you have any clients whose children are neurodivergent, perhaps relook at your client and don't just lump them with a depression or anxiety diagnosis because there could be more going on. That was. I have a fair amount of interest around mental health and neurodivergency as well, because I just do way too much what-ifing about wish I'd got my diagnosis back in 2011. I would have missed a lot of other stuff that created a lot of trauma in unnecessary treatments like shock treatment. So it's happened. All I'm trying to do now is, I guess, navigate that trauma and I don't know whether healing's the right word, but learning to live with it.
Can I ask, you said that you had a good childhood and you didn't really fit in and so forth.
Yeah.
Do you think you had a good childhood because you were so good at masking and therefore you weren't really who you are?
Oh, without a doubt. And also life, I mean, it's easier in our generation, although I think I'm a bit older than you, to say life was different back then, and it was simple. You know, we lived.
Let me stop you. How old are you, Laura?
I'm 55.
Oh, well, there's not much difference. And just so that you know, I was diagnosed last year at 50.
Congratulations, same age as me.
And I agree so hearty with what you say because I couldn't work it out. And I had these 2 autistic children, and it was like, all of a sudden, it was actually Jen that started the process for me. She said, "Oh, do you think?" And I'm
Good
like,
work, Jen.
"Yeah." I'm like,
Oh,
"No."
look, and it was just observation because we're so passionate about the help we provide in the community. And it was just observations with working with Kate. And it was an off-the-cuff comment, really. It wasn't anything, but it actually, you saw a light bulb go off in her eyes. And she's like, ah. But to see the transformation from diagnosis till now, it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Because I actually think I'm very much like you now. I haven't gone to the critical burnout stage.
Yeah.
But I'm teetering on the edge.
Yeah.
And I still mask.
We need to catch up.
Yeah.
So I when I say I had a good childhood, I think what was good is that my parents were very young. So they were practically babies having babies.
Yeah.
They were 19 and 17 when they got married and had me, and they were very active and involved parents, and they ran sporting clubs and got us, my sister and I, involved in sport. And I think that social opportunity, and while I'm not a promoter of planned social opportunities for autistic people, I think they should have a lot more choice and agency there. I think that was a really good thing for me, and getting to, you know, make friends that I still have in my life, and they liked me even though I was, you know, me.
And there's nothing wrong with you.
No,
and that's the thing that we've got to realise is that we might be different, but there's actually nothing wrong. And once we can accept that and go out with that confidence, it takes so much weight of the world off your shoulders.
Yeah, and I think it's slowly that whole neuronormative pressure of expectations is easing. It's not quick enough, but like I posted something this morning, I think on Instagram, and it's a photo of my son when he was 2, and he's spinning wheels, and his back's to me, and like I didn't know he was anything other than my beautiful child, and and I just think, who says that's not playing? You know, who says spinning wheels is not playing? If it's enjoyable and relaxing and all those things, then it's play. So I think sharing those experiences, and I like to do advocacy in a very kind way, because I believe that when people don't know things, it's easier to gently educate them than shame them by, you know, outing them and saying, you know, making it a hard thing. You're just going to get them to put their back up. And I'd much rather
change.
Yeah. I think, you know, none of us know everything. We all continue to learn. I wrote about something I didn't know about 6 years ago, and once I learned about it, it became a really important thing for me to learn and understand. And, you know, until you know these things, you just don't know them.
Yeah. You've had some difficult times over the last many years, especially when Faye was at school. How did you overcome that? How did you keep going? How did you keep pushing forward?
Well, my ex-psychiatrist would say that my approach made me sick. And my argument with him was that my social justice principles helped me navigate a very difficult time for him around the bullying he experienced in school. But it was difficult. I don't think I know I haven't recovered from it. I still am advocating and talking to particularly Queensland Family and Child Commission about asking them to do more, to take on more, to help form an independent advocacy organisation for disabled children and youth, because there isn't one in existence in Queensland. And as we all know, funding to advocacy organisations has really dropped a lot. We've seen, this is a massive trigger warning, 3 young girls in our state make a permanent decision about something that, you know, it's devastating for their family and friends. I don't really want to say the words on this podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah, the QFCC, they hear from me every time that kind of stuff happens. And it was only last year I got an email from someone I used to know who I did a course, he was a facilitator. And it was actually the Parent Leadership Training Institute. And I did that to learn about how to be involved in policy on a local, state, and federal level. And Nathan is now the child rights lead at Queensland Family and Child Commission. And he emailed me and he's like, we need to talk. And so I went into their offices last year and he videoed me for part of what will be the child rights report they put out, hopefully in February. It was supposed to be last year, then it was going to be January, so it's now been delayed to February. I think a lot of that reasons because of the change of government, because policy changes, funding changes, and all that kind of thing. So yeah, just waiting for that to come out. And he, I know he interviewed a young person who I recommended, because I said to him, I won't do it unless there's a youth who has experienced it firsthand. And she was interviewed as well, because youth need to be driving this.
I completely agree. I think there's not enough education and discussion, and bullying's rife through everything at the moment in this society. So it's important for the youth to understand how to approach and how to just have a conversation and understand it.
But we see our politicians do it. So how do we expect our young people to do better when the people running our country are name calling and worse? And, like, I've been to Canberra a few times with my advocacy and gone into the gallery for question time, and they're brutal to each other. And I said to my local member, who is Ross Baster, I said, I don't know how you can, get through that on a regular basis. And he said, oh, it's all show, Laura. We walk out, laughing and joking with each other. And I said, people don't know that though, Ross. Like, they see you hating on each other. And so I couldn't be a politician. I'd be crying all the time.
I actually find it embarrassing.
Yeah, it's terrible.
That
it just comes back to the smoke and mirrors analogy. They put on a front in every scenario, and you don't know the true essence or the meaning behind anything. And that's what's scary.
Yeah.
How did you recover from, and I know it's still a process for you, Laura, but you said, was it 10 years ago that you had the breakdown?
Yeah, 13 years ago.
13 years ago. How did you recover from that? Or what steps have you taken to get where you are today?
Well, I learned a lot of things that don't work for me. So I want to first of all preface this by saying I don't have qualifications to talk about any kind of treatments or therapy. All I can talk about is what works for me.
Personal experience.
That's right. So I stayed with my psychiatrist for far too long, and I think about 10 years, and I changed finally, which was a good thing. I had a lot of admissions to Belmont Hospital, which, at times was very helpful. I don't want to, it wasn't an excellent experience, but it kept me safe at times I needed to be safe. And, it wasn't too bad. They're not very neuro affirming, but hopefully they will learn and do better. I learned a lot during the COVID lockdown periods because we had no access to anything then, and I simply had to figure things out. And I'm so glad that I did. I learned that I have a 100% success rate at surviving difficult days. And sometimes that's enough to get me through. It's not, sometimes it's not, but it is. Saying that I have a 100% success rate at surviving difficult days.
You're here.
Yeah, is really, it's almost an I am woman, hear me roar kind of statement for myself. I've learned to use little anchors. So you can't, I can't make a goal to say, oh, I'm going to have a great day today or a great week or whatever. But I'll say, when you wake up, you're going to have that first sip of that first cup of coffee, and it's going to be fantastic. And so I use those little anchors to kind of stagger my way through a day. And sometimes it might just be focusing on the moment, that real mindfulness. And I don't like mindfulness as a neurodivergent person, but just realizing that this moment is going to be different from the next moment or the one I have tomorrow. And it may be better, it may be worse, but it's going to be different. Yep. Is helpful for me because it's almost a tangible thing I can understand. Like I can't understand some of the other therapy options that were really thrust quite heavily upon me. And I was expected to, embrace them, and I just like, no, I don't like that. That doesn't work for me. So art and journaling has been an absolute lifesaver. I've got into the habit of journaling every day for about 6 months now, but I do it in a creative way because I don't just want to write. I mean, I don't go anywhere or do anything, so I don't have much to write about. So, and you can only write about your feelings so much. So yeah, I like to decorate my page and maybe draw or paint or even use stickers if I'm not feeling that creative. So yeah, I find that
you are a very artistic person from what I've seen.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, and it's something I love sharing with other people as well. I'm always happy to sit down with someone and show them my process and make suggestions, and I think it's important to find your own process. Like, I don't like to copy anyone else. And
can I just ask, have you ever suffered from procrastination?
Oh yes.
So, I listen to you and I bought a beautiful diary. I don't have it in front of me, and I've probably bought one for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I bought a beautiful diary that I was going to start journaling in on the 1st of January.
Yeah.
It's now the 30th of January.
Is it because it's
I'm laughing beautiful? Because I've bought one too.
Is it because, though, it's too beautiful? Like you think, oh, this is so beautiful, and you have this, I don't want to say fear of failure, but this expectation that you won't be equal to
good enough.
Yeah, something like that.
I absolutely agree. Like I don't I don't consciously, that's not why I'm doing it. I'm not doing it. It's because I sit there and I go, I can't be bothered. I'm too tired.
Yeah.
But I can sit there and watch television.
Yeah.
Scroll through Facebook or Instagram.
Facebook, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I beat myself up for not doing it, but it's still make me do it.
I think because I'm really burnt out with social media, and that's from supporting Clay with his business and running his social media for so long. And he's been trading now for, I think, 6 or 7 years.
Wow.
When you consider a small business success rate is around the 50% to last 12 months, I think. And yes, he's had support, but he's done all the work, and he's still going, and it's wonderful. But managing his social media has made me really not like social media at all. And so I have to look for other ways to spend time. I like reading, but yeah, I like to be creative, and I do an amount of advocacy or artivism, you could say, as well. And it's fun for me.
So it's really about nurturing yourself in what ways work for you, rather than following what the psychologist and the psychiatrist and the medical experts say. It's really about you finding what works for you.
Yeah, like I still have to see my psychiatrist because he manages my medications. But when I first had my first meeting with him, because he's in Melbourne, and long story, but I interviewed him basically. I said, tell me what you think about the social model of disability, and what do you think about neuro-affirming ways in practice? And you asked him all these questions, and I thought he's really got to live up to, he's got to tick the boxes
100%.
Because of my past experience. So he was good.
But that's great. And I say that to all our mums, find your tribe.
Yeah.
Find that person, those people that you trust implicitly, and that's who you stick with forever.
Yeah.
So, Laura, what advice would you give the community out there that struggle with their diagnosis and, they feel like they're being held back from their passion? What would be your one key piece of advice for them?
Run really fast towards your passion.
Yep.
No matter what. If it's Pokemon and people don't understand that, that's too bad. And, go and read about the Let Them movement that is becoming such a force, and it's giving me so much ability to navigate my rejection sensitivity that I have. So run fast towards your passions. They're not obsessions. They are interests and hobbies. If you were neurotypical, they'd be called interests and hobbies.
Yeah.
I actually listened to a podcast, Laura. I think it was Mel Robbins.
Yes, yeah.
Brilliant.
She is. It's her. That's her. I think she created it, really. And I just love it. I just think, just saying that, so-and-so didn't do something or invite me or whatever it might be, let them. And it straight away, it just lifts this huge
weight.
Yeah.
100%.
Right. Yeah. So, and if you can turn what you love into employment or a micro business, do it. If you need a champion, like you do, particularly our youth, like Clay couldn't have started this by himself, mainly because he doesn't drive and he doesn't know when he wants to learn to drive. And
so what was the journey with Clay in terms of, deciding to do this business?
Well, there was an element of pressure from us. He loves gaming. No, he loves gaming. And, we said to him from the get-go, you have to get a job because it's an expensive thing to do. And I helped him, apply for jobs online with the big retailers and do resume drops in our local community. And he did get one trial at a fish and chip shop, which, he was thrilled about. But he didn't get the job because he did not meet their expectations. Now, they're a small business. I'm not going to hold that against them. That's just what it is. And, after 18 months or so, and because I had been reading about unemployment rates for autistic people, and, I was following Specialist Stern, and I know that they do great work for autistic people who have certain talents. They weren't going to be able to help Clay find a job. Clay wasn't interested in that kind of data matching or an IT and that kind of thing. And he wanted a life that involved maybe living down the Gold Coast and maybe eventually having a family. He's currently doing a lot of fun partying and stuff like that. And he's 22, that's what you do.
Everyone his age should be able to do.
Yeah. So we sat down with him and talked about sort of easy entry level, and I shouldn't say easy because bin cleaning's not easy, but entry level kind of work he could do that seemed to have a gap in our community. And that was one that came up pretty quickly. And my husband trained him, first of all, in seeing if it was something he could manage, because we were worried about his sensory profile, and he coped really well. And so we just advertised, first of all, with my Facebook friends, and he started getting work, and then we started advertising in community Facebook groups. And I was driving him around. I was cleaning bins beside him because it was really important for me to understand the process to teach him better ways and be more efficient. And yeah, that's how it started, and it just grew from there. He had, that element of some viral social media years ago, which he loved.
I think he was on mainstream TV, wasn't
he? Yeah, he got on all the
As soon as you said what he does and his name, I went, I remember him. And it was purely just from social media. And yeah, that's
so, and also there's two things aside from him having purpose and having his own income and independence. The two best things about it is that his self-confidence has become it's just soared, like he just is. He feels 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And the other important thing is that in his community, wherever he goes, he's known. And we know with disabled people, if they are known in their community, they are safer.
Yes.
So I have that, almost relief. If I go places like, oh, you're Clay's mum, I don't have a name.
You've lost your identity, as we all do as mums.
Yeah. So, and he's increased his services by introducing jet blasting to clean driveways and fences and things like that. He has public liability insurance, so he's learning all about the back end of the business as well.
And who's supporting him to do that?
He's got a support worker through NDIS.
Yeah, and that's working?
Yeah, he's great.
That's awesome.
What's not working is that the funding's always a bit of a fight. And I find as the Clay's nominee and a person who has executive dysfunction and And I'm certain menopause came along at the same time and just made things harder. It's just been a really hard thing for me to manage and work out, and then I see other people who are not neurodivergent or even disabled people who will be wheelchair users, but they turn up to work and they talk about their NDIS as if it's this really easy thing. And I just think, I don't know how they do it.
It's hard, especially the invisible dissonance.
Yeah.
One thing I did want to touch on is your wonderful husband, Warren, is that right?
Yeah.
How has this affected him? I mean, from what I see on your social media, he's almost the rock of the family.
He is, yes.
He must have found it difficult seeing you go through what you went through, and obviously having a disabled child.
Yeah.
He dealt with that. How has he recovered? How has he?
He's just so stoic, and he's just well, this is the way it is. Got to get on with the job kind of person. It was hard to know that when I was in and out of hospital, and I had a lot of admissions. I mean, while I wasn't dying from cancer, nobody turned up with meals to support my family. And I felt it's hard to explain. I feel like when it comes to a mental illness, there is still a massive stigma.
Huge.
People are very afraid. I can post about my beautiful dog Waffles and get heaps and heaps of likes, but post about some kind of mental health post, and my mum might like it.
Yeah. And I think that people just don't know how to respond. I think that's, because they don't want to make it worse. Because they think if I respond, am I going to make it worse? How can I? And not knowing how to help, I think that's people are scared.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And I suggest a great book to read is Lee Sales wrote a book called Any Ordinary Day. And it's very much about people not knowing how to react to the difficulties their loved ones have gone through, like Walter Mikac, who lost his wife and children at Port Arthur in the shootings. And his best friend, every time he saw him in the street in their small community, would turn around and walk the other way. And Walter ended up, managing to catch up with him one day and say, "Hey, what's going on?" And the guy's going, "Oh, I just don't know what to say, and it's really hard." And Walter said, "Well, do you think it's hard? It's easy for me." And there is nothing right you can say, just being there. And anyway, back to the book. It's a fabulous book to read to get the context about how sometimes there's not going to be an easy thing or right thing to say, but learning to hold space or just listen or be there or turning up with a coffee. There's so many things you can do. And so what if it's awkward? So what? It's not going to be any worse for the person you're speaking to.
It'll only be awkward initially.
Mm.
That's all. You just have to show up.
Yeah.
That's the first step.
I'm a firm believer that no one will ever understand what you're going through, whether it's depression, whether it's loss, whether it's whatever, until they've been through that themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very difficult thing to understand.
They can be sympathetic.
Yeah.
I'll never really understand it.
Yeah. And I've said to Mum in times when I've felt really lonely and isolated, and it's nobody's fault. My friends have busy lives. They're not intentionally avoiding me or ignoring me, like they're not even thinking of me. And I don't mean that in a bad way either.
Yeah.
But
they're busy.
That's right. They're busy. So we are all busy. We all have very busy lives these days. And it's important to remember that as well, because sometimes when you are in the deepest, darkest of places, you do just assume that, you're the like the poison pen, or you're the
And no
one
one
that's
cares.
yeah,
And you go into a very negative place.
yeah, yeah.
You just mentioned your mum.
Mm.
What's your mum's take on all of this?
Oh,
And again, it was very different back when they were growing up and when you
yeah.
were a child, and that's what I sort of say with my mum and dad. They didn't know.
Oh, so let's just say neurodivergency is strong in our family. So
Okay.
while my parents don't have any kind of diagnosis, Mum and I have discussed it, and we definitely think Dad is. And Mum said that she wouldn't be surprised. My sister has three who are autistic, and yeah, so she's great. She's always been very supportive. When Clay was about three and things were a bit tough for all of us, we ended up selling our house and moving in with my parents. And we lived there for, I think, 3 years, just till things kind of settled down and Clay got on ADHD medication.
And I do have to mention, you do have a daughter as well.
I do, yes.
How Ali, I think her name is.
Yeah, so she's like the boss of the house.
What? She's older than Clay?
No,
No, younger.
she's
No,
younger.
youngest
So
sister, that sounds about right.
yeah, so she works at Mini Bounce and we call her the autism wrangler. So I think they kind of throw her at the kids that come through with some behavioral things going on, because she's not at all intimidated by it. So yeah, she's good. She's very much takes on a parent role with Clay at times, because I think I don't know, it's not that I demand less of him. It's I understand why he doesn't do certain things and maybe not push him enough.
Yes. And it's a very, very hard fine line that you've got to.
Here he is.
It's Clay.
Yeah.
Hi, Clay.
This is Kate and Jen. We're
Hey,
talking
Clay.
about you.
Morning.
What time are you getting up for work?
She should be between 9:45 to 10.
Mate, you got 4 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just on the wake up.
Yeah, so Clay's kind of he's 22, he's an adult. My attitude is, if he wasn't autistic, we wouldn't be as involved in his life. So try really hard to not be as involved in his life. So he has to make all the decisions and he has to make all the mistakes, and we'll just be there when he needs it.
Yeah.
Needs us.
And that's a great way to be, because you can't shelter him from the big world. And
No.
look, he seems to be doing amazing out there. So you've done a really good job in supporting him this far. So
yeah. So he's just we're very happy.
And the fact that he came up and said hi.
Yeah.
He was quite willing
He loves
to come
it.
to
He loves all the interest and attention, and
It's great.
He said to me a few years ago, in the midst of the really intense media attention, that he was famous. And I went, no, mate, you're not famous. I said, you're a role model. That's it.
And, maybe if he's interested, we could have a chat to him.
Oh, yeah, he would, absolutely, because he has these other interests now. He loves going to music festivals and he wears a banana costume.
I've seen that. Yes, my son's got one of those.
Yeah, so he's Banana Man and has his own Instagram page, and he loves it that people want to get photos with him. And, he is the complete opposite of an introvert, which is the rest of us.
I love it. Absolutely love it. He's out there kicking his own goals. It's amazing.
Yep.
That's
as
great.
long as it has the support moving forward to be
That's
able.
exactly right.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people who watch this show and they come to us and say that they feel limited by their disability and they don't know how to move forward. What would be your advice to them?
It is really easy to feel limited by your disability. I think also because, within the disability sector, there's a little bit of an argy-bargy hierarchy thing going on about, who's got it the hardest. It's apples and oranges, every disability is different and you can't compare. So I just think it's really important to find the right people, first of all. Now, in saying that, I have a fairly isolated life. I don't leave the house. Sorry?
Is that by choice?
Partly. I think I mean, I don't know what I want to do now, like with regards to social life, because so much I struggle with now. Like, I really recognize that the sensory stuff is truly hard, and I don't know how I dealt with it back then. You just were expected to.
You wanted to appear normal also. And it was normal to go out to nightclubs and it was normal to go out with your friends and it was normal.
Yeah.
You wanted to be normal.
And do you know what? All of my dating, like, I learned how to date from Beverly Hills 90210, Melrose Place, Friends, all those TV shows, and it wasn't very successful, let me tell you. But when I got married, the show Everybody Loves Raymond was the
Love
show.
that show. Yep.
And I thought that's what marriage was. And so it took me a while to figure it out. I think it's just, it's not what life is not what TV shows are. And we don't have to live up to expectations, like other people's expectations. We have to really just find what works and what's right for us. And it might mean that we do spend more time alone. But I know for myself with my mental health, I've worked really hard to get to a reasonably stable level. And I know that I will have to continue to work hard for the rest of my life. I will never be cured. I am always going to be a work in progress. And those things are I'm really glad I've learned. And I guess I inject those moments of self-care in my day. So I think putting yourself first, finding out the self-care things that work for you, not comparing yourself to people who are not disabled. But yeah, it is hard. I mean, I think there are times when I think, oh, I wish that I wasn't like this. But that's more about my mental health than autism.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're going to, as we start to get close to wrapping up, what are your hopes and dreams for the future? Not just for you and Clay and your family, but for society as a whole. How do we improve this for not just disabled people, but the whole world?
Yeah, so I just think words like inclusion and accessibility and things like that have become far too common and far too much, used too much, but not really put into practice. I think that, and this is going to be a little bit political, and I'm really sorry about this, but I think that, we've been sold out by, policies and systems around NDIS and the changes that have been brought in. Who did it is not important. It's just that it's done. And, if you still can't get your child to safely attend a state school, there's so much work to be done. And I like to say that whether you're a politician, an educator, or a parent, we all have the same goal. We all want our children to attend school and be safe and to learn. So why is it so hard for us to meet together and work from that common goal?
Couldn't agree more.
Do you think it's because of money? Because in the perfect world, we would all assimilate together. We'd all get our needs met, whether that's educational, social, whatever. You know, we would be an individual.
Yeah, I don't know that it's money so much. I think it's just systems that are so entrenched. You know, when you think about our state education system and what I dealt with years ago, I think people are still dealing with those same issues. And I know that there's a lot of people doing amazing work in this space, like Community Resource Unit or CREW, another, I can't remember the other organisation, but they're doing a lot of really good work in this space. So there is little gains, but we're talking about our children. You know, we're talking about people who, like 3 girls have died within the last 6 months because things have not been handled properly. And why is it that, you know, it can be, it doesn't, I don't understand how, if someone said to me, Laura, how would you deal with bullying in schools? I mean, years ago, I didn't have an answer, but after going through and reading a lot and learning a lot, I think that we need to first of all look at the young people who are actually doing the bullying. We need to not call them bullies for a start. These are young people who also have the rest of their lives ahead of them. And they're doing this for reasons which are quite often of no fault of their own. And they need to be receiving supports and resources and help so that they can understand what they're doing, but also work on their trauma from wherever it's coming from in their lives. So, I mean, I remember we wrote a letter to the school once saying to them, please let this person come to our home, like the kid that was bullying Clay. We want to welcome them into our home. We want to show them our family and give them love, and they wouldn't pass that letter on. But, you know, I just think that a lot more can be solved by helping those people, those young people, to understand and recover.
Yeah. Starts with a conversation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
100%. Thank you so much for your time, Laura, and, you know, being so open, raw and honest with us.
That's okay. So I gave you my Instagram account, which I think you know anyway, Kate, but you're welcome to share that. It's an open account. I don't post things on there that are personal or private or whatever.
Yep.
So
we will share all of that, and we will let you know when the podcast goes live. So if you want to, you're more than welcome to.
Yeah, I'm going to go listen to the other 2 now because I can't wait. It's going to be so good.
Laura, it was an absolute pleasure to meet you and Clay. Look forward to seeing what other adventures he gets to in the future.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. You have a great